Unfortunately, communication is not as easy as I might have suggested in the last two videos. There are a variety of different ways that we don't connect well, that we're not hearing the other person's perspective. We're not even sometimes aware of the other person's perspective, and that, and that we should be thinking about how our having a conversation in the movie theater might distract the people around us. So we talked earlier about, how we take a message and code it, and some of us have difficulty accurately putting our ideas into words. We communicate that, but whatever psychological or physical noise is in the environment may interfere with the other person's ability to decode it. So let's look at some of those difficulties. It may be a lack of clarity, so that I may not be able to put my ideas into words, or maybe I'm using words that are or language that is so jargon filled that you have difficulty understanding it. Your lack of familiarity with the material may interfere. What you came in to a situation may interfere with your ability to communicate well. It may also, if you're the listener, you may have difficulty hearing because you're focusing on something else. There may be physical noise, stuff going on in the rest of, outside of here. It may be that your history with the other person interferes with your ability to listen. You're just so used to being dismissed by the other person that even when they're being kind, you can't hear it. Or it may be something about the context that modifies the meaning of that message. And so that context may make it hard for you to hear and understand. Now, we believe that we have skills that we don't. And so this figure in your text describes a number of places where we think that we are are able to detect liars. And in fact, we make a number of different mistakes about that. In fact, the research out there suggests that police officers, that most people are just not very good at recognizing lies. And we're not much above chance there. Unfortunately, we still believe that we're pretty good. Let's think about some other communication barriers. These barriers might include judging somebody else. So criticizing them, oh, that's just not a good color on you. Name calling, ugh, I don't even want to name call in a video. Praising people in a manipulative way. You're so good at this. Why don't you do this? Avoiding other people's concerns. So for example, moralizing, talking about what should happen, or diverting, the conversation, or one-upping. You think you have it bad? You should have seen what my week was like. Or using logic and suggesting that logic is better than our own feelings. Sometimes we propose solutions to problems using leading questions don't you think it would be better if it were done this way? Or we order someone, you should do this, or we threaten, if you don't do this, I'm not going to talk to you. Or we give advice. And many of us like giving advice. You know, if I were you, I would do this. And advice is probably one place that many of you are going, well, that feels good to me. The problem with advice is that it often suggests that the other person is kind of stupid, and that's why they're not following through on this, why they haven't solved this before, or that I know better than you do. Advice doesn't really work tremendously well. So let's take this even one step further. You know, I think one of the things I would encourage you to do is begin to think about some of the situations where you're seeing people who are not communicating effectively. Think about what's happening in the course of an argument. You know, these people are certainly maintaining eye contact, but their distance, you know, their hand gestures may indicate, you know, their facial expressions may indicate that they really don't understand the other person and aren't really wanting to get there. I would encourage you to look at movies. This is from Mrs. Doubtfire. This is a party scene, which led to the breakup of Robin Williams and Sally Fields' marriage. And at this point, they're dancing on the table without having, at the birthday party, without telling, you know, Sally Fields that they're having a party even. And you might think about some of the ways, some of the things here that prevented or interfered with successful solution. And I will probably post one or more videos from this movie. Think about, what do we think about the other person? You know, we're talking fixed and growth mindset here. Do you believe that your partner can change or that you can change? Do you believe that you should need to work on relationships? And how does that impact what's going on? If you don't believe that you should work on a relationship, and certainly many of the fairy tales that we were raised on don't encourage that, it may be difficult for you to put that work in. As we're thinking about relationships, think about how are you, to what degree are you concerned about the other person and also yourself? So my preference would be that you take a collaborative approach in a relationship where you consider your needs and the other person's needs, rather than a more competitive perspective. And certainly giving up your needs is not useful. So collaborative is much more assertive in tone, where competing or a competitive approach is more aggressive in tone. And both of these are more passive approaches. So you might, in general, you might think about some of the barriers to actually behaving in a more assertive way. To what degree are you finding that it is difficult for you to meet your own needs? In what ways does being a woman or a member of your race or class or your major, how does that impact maybe a member of your family? Perhaps all the people in your family tend to be pretty passive or pretty aggressive. Perhaps it is typical within your family to name call. And how do these things cause you some problems? You know, the short-term aggressive approaches may be helpful. Long-term, may be less helpful. One of the things that prevent many of us from behaving more assertively is that we think conflict is bad and we get nervous about conflict. You know, we may avoid it as much as possible. And, you know, when we actually have to deal with it, we handle it badly. And therefore, we think conflict is bad. Conflict is part of life. You can't avoid it. But what you can do is handle it better. And take care. Bye-bye.